Peace to you. My name is Reverend Dr. Masia Evans, and I welcome you to First United Methodist Church, here in the heart of bustling Midtown Sacramento. We are an inclusive community that values justice and always seeks to practice love first. I pray that this message will be meaningful to you.
Good morning, dear people. I am deeply honored to address you today on this specific text and on this specific day. I can hardly imagine a more feminine description of God than one in which we are all God's offspring and inside God. The image, or one image that comes to me, is of an enormous incubator full of little eggs, these little self-encased, forming and developing expressions of God who have no idea there's a bigger world until their self-encasement starts to crack. It has been a little reminiscent for me of a way the cracking of my shell has revealed a truth I needed to remember even to write this sermon, and certainly to have good news to share, to have hope to share. Fear makes me want to pull the shell around me tighter. And these times give us a lot of reasons to fear. But light gets through the cracks anyway. And the light landed just so for me to see and realize God is so obviously not done with us yet. More than worrying about end times, I need to be looking for how to live into the future that is being created right now. God willing, I'm going to share that light with you today so you can see it too. May God's will be done. Amen. Let me start by naming something we have all experienced but maybe haven't said out loud quite this way. So much of what has formed our idea or understanding of Christianity, their version, our version, whatever version, is about how different it is from what had come before, or is still different from other ways of living. A lot of the way we talk about what we as Christians, at least what the loudest and most public Christians proclaim, is about how we need to set ourselves apart from others. And I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say these days that's actually really easy. We've all gotten really good at that. Our entire economic engine is fueled by proclamations about how to define yourself, equip yourself, brand yourself so you can stand out and be distinguishable. Though meanwhile, we also seem driven to find people who stand out the same ways we do. We don't want to be alone in our shell, that's too lonely. Instead, we gather and form new shells as groups. People who share identities, religious beliefs, political beliefs, generation age groups, sports team fans, you name it. And it reveals two things that we all need: to be seen as individuals and to find community. What do we do with that as people in this time and place when, according to Paul, we are all of us, inside God? When Paul walked through Athens, it actually wasn't that different a time culturally than our own, something we've explored often. Athens is and was extraordinary, and as Pastor Masia mentioned, at the time of Paul's visit, it was one of the most religiously saturated cities in the ancient world. There were altars everywhere, temples to almost every conceivable deity. Philosophers we still study as relevant today were influencing each other right there where Paul addressed the Areopagus. If you could see the spelling of that word, you'd know that every time I have to say it, I'm going to stumble a little bit. Acts tells us a little earlier that when Paul arrived in Athens, he was actually deeply distressed by what he saw. Yet, when Paul comes to speak about it, he doesn't mock the altars. He had walked among them, he had looked deeply at them, and he found that one altar that stopped him in his tracks. It was different. It was set apart from the others. It was an altar with the inscription, "To an unknown God." And Paul says, that one. That's the one I want to talk about. That's the one that is about the truth we are all trying to find. And let me tell you what exactly it is. Paul was masterful at rhetoric, and it was important to be at the Areopagus, to be good at it if you hoped to be heard by the people who were there. But I don't think this is just a rhetorical strategy on Paul's part. Paul expresses a specific understanding of what it means to be Christian, one that puts all the ways we set ourselves apart into a new frame. We are all God's children, inside God. This changes everything. Not only is it a great launching pad for a sermon on Mother's Day, it also speaks to living into these days as though they are the start of the future rather than end times. And I need that hope. Let me call attention to three key messages in what Paul says about the unknown God. First, God is not defined by us. Paul says the God who made the world and everything in it, the Lord of heaven and earth, doesn't live in shrines and isn't in need of service from human hands. It's rather the reverse. God gives all mortals life and breath. God is bigger than any one tradition or any one tribe's understanding. Every temple, however beautiful, however sincere, is too constrained by human limitations to be God's one home. Second, yet God is for us. Right now, in this moment, the same source that set the universe in motion is flowing into you with your next breath. God also sees us as individuals. We are not identical within God. God gives us each our own time and reasons to search so that we will find the source of love that sustains and nourishes and enables the very fact of us, which Paul promises is not far from any of us. Third, and I would say this is the one that changes everything, God contains all of us. For within God we live and move and have our being, not some of us. Not just the ones who set themselves apart in the right ways. Not just the ones who belong to the right clubs. All of us, already, right now, living and moving and having our being inside God. Here we sit, whether in a pew or a seat from home, in a much too small house to encompass God, reading and reflecting on writings that are close to 2,000 years old, as though through them God will say something new to us today. Well, weirdly, I actually think Paul here is saying something new again. Rather than the life of this Christian gathering being about what sets us apart, or proving that we are set apart, today in this reading, Paul invites us instead to reflect on the fact that we are all in this together. Not just those of us here in this room, not just people who call themselves Christians. All people everywhere. Which, by the way, means that nobody's getting into heaven unless we all are going to heaven. Everyone, we're all in God together, all for one, one for all. What Christ models is how to live in an awareness that God is everywhere, in everyone, and in everything, even in this life, as just one of the eggs in the incubator. And what to do with the corollary awareness that we are all God's children. Jesus was all about cracks in the shell and the way that light flows through them, both in and out. He rejected community, ethnic, and religious boundaries. Yet that did not keep him from seeking and seeing individuals to whom he gave his full attention. Specifically, God moved toward the ones who had been pushed outside of the acceptable community. The Syrophoenician woman, the Samaritan at the well, the lepers, the tax collectors. The ones all the excluding categories had named as not inside. Yet the light breaking through him connected to the light in those others and proved that it was a lie, that inside, that didn't include everyone. And that practice, that's what today's reading is inviting all of us into too. Because let's talk about the excluding ways we sort who is in and who is out in our own time. I want to focus on one in particular. A political theorist at UC Berkeley named George Lakoff wrote about the distinction between the ways conservative and progressive Americans talk about what they need from their leaders. What he noticed is that over the last several years, we've actually organized our public life around two archetypes. The protective father, powerful, the one who demands order and keeps us safe. And the nurturing mother, the one who builds community, tends to the vulnerable, and lifts up those who are struggling. We've turned those archetypes into political parties, into a binary choice, into a culture war. But if Paul walked through today's version of Athens, which I would say are our social media feeds, our 24-hour news cycles or news sources, and our online comment sections that aspire to be today's Areopagus, Paul would probably say, you've built two temples to the same God, and you're fighting over which altar is the real one, when the real one is both, neither, and much more. Because here's the thing. Mother is not a political position. It is not a religious position. Mother is not even a gender. Mother is an archetype, one face of the God Paul is announcing, the one who generates life, who sustains it, who says, your very being is precious to me, and I am not done with you yet. Father is not a political party or a religion or a gender either. It is another face of the same God, the one who provides structure, who protects, who says, I will not let you be lost. We treat them as opposites, as a binary, but God is both of those things, neither of those things, and much more, well beyond just those two things. As the ground of all being, the source in which we all live and move and have our being, God might just be more like the people who experience themselves as non-binary, or both, or neither. God is more than and beyond all of our categories for each other. Yet we honor mothers today, and we absolutely should. Those of us lucky enough to have had mothers, I've got one, whose love nurtured us into people who love, that is a gift. Yet not all of us have had that experience. Some of us had to find it somewhere else. A different parent, a different source, a different encounter that taught us to love and to receive love. And that's the point. The love that makes mothering so holy didn't originate with any of us. It is that light, that warmth, shining in and through and already present in each of us as we live and move and have our being. What is new again about this roughly 2,000-year-old reading from Acts is that Paul is not talking about what makes Christians different from anyone else. He is clarifying what makes God, God, and what that means for us. And it is different than what we think. As far as God is concerned, everybody is already in. We are the ones who have to find our own being in God, and as we find our own, remember everyone else's. As we walk through our modern Athens, the real world and the one online, may we see it. And the stranger and the one we're tempted to exclude because of what they say or do or believe. May we become people who see the light that is also on, in, and coming from those we name others. May we feel God's love for us, filling us so to overflowing that our light spills out to them. May we play our part in helping them find the truth about us versus them. May we, as the First United Methodist community, follow the example set by Christ for how to do that, experiencing and creating together a community through our recognition and welcome of God as present in everyone, everywhere, all of the time. Because God is nowhere near done with us yet. There are still so many of us whose shells are pulled too tight to let the light in or out. In this mother and father and everything else God, who is everywhere and everyone, we still have so much more loving to do together. We are all in this together, already, always, and in the future being created right now. Amen.
Thank you for watching. To get further connected, you can always join us in person at one of our weekly worship services, which meets every Sunday at 10 a.m. here at 2100 J Street, Midtown Sacramento. Or for more information, you can click on one of the provided links, which is also posted in the description. Thank you for being a part of this community. And always remember, put love first. Peace.